Hi everyone, today we're going to be doing this transition. Really simple stuff. Let's get to it. So I have some videos here that I've already downloaded. I'm just going to select all of them and drag them to the timeline. Let's just minimize the timeline by holding down Alt and scrolling upwards a bit. I'll just remove the soundtrack. I don't need that. I'm going to create a bit of a handle between the videos and put that there like that. Go to effects, then go to, let's say, cross dissolve, put that in between that, and can put the playhead there, zoom in a bit, then click on this transition. Right click on it, I'll just say convert to fusion cross dissolve, then right click on it again and open it in Fusion page. Let's move media out here, disconnect all of this, delete this cross dissolve, and now we have media in 1, media in 2. Let's first create the node grid that drives the transition. The first thing I do, bring in the background node. The reason why I bring a background node is so that the transition adopts the project's resolution. Right now, this project's resolution, which we can find from here, is HD. If we go to this background, by default, if we go to image under the inspector panel, you'll see it's HD already. Then I bring in the merge node. The first merge, I put it on media 1. Then the second merge, I put it on media 2. I connect this background node to the background input of merge 2. And this background node to the background input of merge 1. Then connect media 1 to the foreground of this merge 1. And connect media 2 to the foreground of this merge 2. The first thing we want to do, like you saw in that transition, what we see immediately is we need a way to be able to split the image into 2. The best way to do that is using a mask node. So I'm just going to bring in a mask node, rectangular mask node. Let's drag that to the left viewer. Let's close this effects tab. Let's even make it a single viewer. By clicking on there, let's drag back in here. Let's expand this a little bit. Okay. Then I want to now set a few things here. I want this to be pretty high. So I'm just going to go to the height. I'm going to set it to 4. I'm going to set the width to 1. Now the thing about this is, you notice we can split it in half. So what I could do is I could move this here, like here, and then rotate and all that. But you see, as I rotate it, it is now cutting into this other half. And I want it to rotate about this axis here. Let me double click on this angle here to reset it. I want it to rotate about this point here. So it means I will need a transform node. So I'm going to bring in a transform node. By default, if I just drag this and connect to the transform node, it will connect to the blue input because this is a mask node and it wants to connect to the mask input of this node. But no, that's not what I want. So I click on this end here and I will reconnect this to the yellow input of the transform node. Let's drag the transform node to the viewer. You see that this X thing here is the pivot point. And so you will see it right at the point. So if I go to this transform node there and I go to under inspector, if it's not open, just click on this to open it. And I rotate this. You see it's rotating right around the right axis, which is exactly what we want. To bring in a matte control node. I connect this transform to the garbage input of this matte control node. It's this slightly grayish point here. Or you can just, better way to do it is I can hold down Alt on the keyboard. I can now drag this edge here and drop it on here. It will list a bunch of the inputs and I can pick garbage matte. Connect this to the yellow input of this matte control node. Notice before I drag this to the viewer that this rectangle mask, the white point is where it is supposed to show, right? But if I drag this matte control node here, it's showing the other part. So to correct this, I'll just go to garbage matte and I click on invert. And then we have it covering the right part. I bring in another matte control node, drag it here, connect this transform to the garbage matte input of the matte control node. And then I connect this same footage here down to the smart control node because we want to split the image in two halves. So if I drag this here, you see it's conveniently picked the other part. So I don't need to go to the garbage man to set that because it's automatically picking the invert of the rectangle mask. We're fine on that point. Then we come to the point where we want to be able to move this apart. The beautiful thing about Fusion is that I can use one node to drive both movements. So I'm just going to bring in a transform node. I'm going to connect this to the transform node. Then I bring in another transform node, connect this to this transform node. But you know something, you notice I said that I want to be able to tilt the angle at which this cuts off. Let me make this a dual viewer so we get to see both points. So this is the other half, this is the other half. Now the thing about this is if I now drag this transform node here, you see it's moving straight. It's not moving along the axis of this slant. So if I wanted to move along the axis of the slant, I'm going to bring in an additional transform node. So I'm going to click on here, drag another transform node in here, connect this to this transform node. Now this transform node, I want it to automatically pick the angle this one has. So what I'll do is I'll click on this one that has the angle. I'm going to pin it by clicking on this button here. Now click on this one. I want this transform node to pick its angle from the angle here. So I'm going to go to the angle for this transform 2 node, which is this transform 2. I'm going to right click on this angle, click on expression. There'll be this plus thing here. I'm going to pick with this and connect this to the angle of this other transform 1. So you see that it is now bent like that other transform 1. But there's something I want to do here. For this transform 2 now, which is this one, I'm going to put a minus in front of it. So that way you see it doesn't look nice yet, but you'll see what we'll do. Then we go to this transform 4, the one after it. I'm going to do the same thing and connect the angle for transform 4 to the angle to transform 1, which is this transform. So I right click on this angle, click on expression. We have this plus here. I can double click on this, drag and pick with it to the angle of transform 1. This one I will leave it as plus. Now if I drag this now to this left viewer, you see everything is straightened out. And if I now go to this transform, I decide to move this. This one moves in line with the angle of the slant. Let's say I go to this transform 1 and I increase its angle. Let's say I set it to like 45 so we can see how it moves. If I go here to move it now, you see it's moving perpendicular to this thing. It's moving in this direction. That's what this double transform thing does. If you want to move something, you put a negative before, then you put another transform and put the positive value. Then you can now use this initial transform to move it around. But there's something I now notice. By the time, let's say we set this angle to something like maybe 30, and I decide to move this, I don't want this edge here to show. I want it to have some continuity somewhat here to make it look a little nicer. So to do that, I'm going to just copy the whole of this. I'm going to paste, right click and paste an instance. So essentially I have the same values of this here. Then I will now connect this transform to this here. Now for this transform here, you see this value here. I want this edge here to continue. So I'm going to go to this transform 2. I'm going to, let me unpin this here. So we can click out and click in again. So we have only that. Then I go to this transform 2 here under inspector panel. I go to edges. I change that to duplicate. I'm going to click on here and click on duplicate. But the challenge with this duplicate now is it's going downwards. It's supposed to go along the same slant. I'm going to click on this instance, go to edges, right click on it, the instance edges, then double click on this to set it back to canvas. Then I'll connect this mask to this yellow input here. Then I'll bring in another matte control. I'm going to connect this one to the yellow input of this matte control. So I want this mask to now mask out just this part. So I'm going to connect this to the garbage input here. And then if I drag this to the left viewer, you don't see anything. It's because we haven't set the garbage matte. So I go to this matte control under inspector, expand garbage matte, and click on invert. So you see it now has that straight thing. And now we can move the image like so, and it still looks good. That's for the upper one. Now for the lower one, I'm just going to bring in another transform node here. Connect this to this transform node. Then we're going to repeat the whole process we had here. So I go to this transform. I first go to this transform one, which is where all of these transforms derive the angle. I'm going to pin it. I'm going to go to this transform. I'm going to right click on the angle for this transform 3, which is transform 3 here. I'm going to click on expression. Then I'm going to pick with this to this angle here and set this to minus here. And I'm going to do the same thing for this transform 5. Right click on the angle, expression, then connect this, equip it to the angle of transform 1. So if we drag this to the viewer, we see we have things all straightened out. So what we want, I want to use this transform 2 to drive the movement for this transform. But you know this transform 2 is increasing in value. So I want to use the value by which it increases to now subtract the value for this 0.5. So I'm just going to, for the x value of 0.5. So I'm going to right click on this, click on expression. So the x value is this 0.5 here. So I want to reduce it by the amount by which this one increases. So I'll just go here. I say 0.5 minus, then put in bracket, type transform 2 dot center dot x minus 0.5. So the amount by which it increases over 0.5. And press enter. So if I bring in a merge node here and I connect both of them to the merge node, it doesn't matter which one is foreground and background, and I drag that in here. You see if I move transform 2 like so, they just come apart like so. So you see that controlling both of them. Let's disconnect this because I'm not done with it. I need to repeat what I did below here. So I'm just going to select both of them, right click, copy, click on this, right click, paste instance, drag them close. Then there's something I should have done here for transform 3. I should go to the edges and make it duplicate. I don't know why the duplicate thing does this sometimes. It does that. Why does it do that? So it's working properly now. I just clicked on duplicate and it works properly. I think there's a bug somewhere, but yeah, it's displaying what it should display properly now. So now we have that edge here. So we need to now click on this, de-instance the edges here, then double click to set it back to canvas, connect this transform to the input of this instance here, then bring in a matte control node, connect this to the garbage matte input of the matte control node, and connect this to the yellow input of the matte control node. Then we click on the matte control node under inspector, expand garbage matte, click on invert, then connect this to that, and then we have that. Now for the garbage matte, my bad, we shouldn't click on invert. So it just works like that. Now let me move this, let me make it a bit more compact, not so like so. Yeah. So now we have the first part where this thing moves apart like so. So it moves apart, then I want it to now slide the other way. So it means this merge we have here, we still need to disconnect it. There's still some work to be done. So for us to have it now move in separate directions and move this way and move that way, we'll just bring another transform node We're going to bring two transform nodes, connect this math control to this transform node, connect this transform node here, and then for this first transform node, repeat that whole process we did before. Click on transform 1 here, pin it. Now for transform 6, which is here, I'm going to right click on the angle expression, connect this to this angle here, put a minus in front of this, and for transform 7, do the same thing. I think it's faster to type it than this pick whipping thing, because if I do, let me do the typing here. So we just repeat the whole process here to drag two transform nodes here, connect the math control node to this, another math control node to this. For this first transform, let's say I unpin this, just let this, only this one show. I go to this angle, right click on it, expression, I just type transform 1 that angle, and then we're good. I'll just put a minus in front of that, like so. Then transform 9, right click on it, expression, should have just copied that, transform 1 that angle, and then we're good. Now what we want to move for this transform 6, let's connect this to those merge so we get to see what we are working with. So what we want to move for this transform 6 is the Y value. So it moves, slides that way. You see it slide that way. So that's what we want to move. Double click to reset that. And I want this transform to drive this transform. So I'm just, if this Y increases, the amount by which it increases over 0.5 should be the amount by which this one drops down. So I'm just going to go to this transform 8, right click on center X, click on expression. So for the Y value here, I want it to drop, right? So it's going to be minus, and I put a bracket, transform 6 dot center dot Y, capital Y is case sensitive, capital Y minus 0.5, then close bracket. I'll put the expression on the screen. So now if I now increase this Y value, you see it drives that movement. Cool. Now we have all of the whole thing set up manually. Let's now animate it with AnimCurves. So the first one, to split the image, I'm going to go to transform 2, which is what drives both. And I'm going to go to the center X, right click on it, modify with vector result. I go to modifiers. So let's say I just want to increase it by, I don't know, that is 0.05. So I'm just going to right click on distance, modify with AnimCurves. Then for the curve, when it opens, I want it to bounce at the tail end of it. So I'm just going to go to easing. So the beginning, I could make it sine. Then the end, I want it to be back. So it does this back thing. Then the scale should be that 0.05 that I showed in the distance. I'm just going to go to this as a 0.05. But you recall that for the transition, it first opens before it slides away. So that means that should happen like maybe a quarter of the transition duration. So I want it to happen 4 times as fast, like a quarter. So that's going to be 4, right? So I'm just going to set this to 4. Then I want it to happen from the beginning. So this time of set will be still 0. So if we play this now, you see what happens. It just opens and then stays. Then we move on to this other one that will now get it to move. So I go to this transform, I right click on its own center, and I modify with vector results too, because you can't use AnimCurves on this kind of value that has an X and Y or 2 values at the same time. You have to use another modifier to pull in the right values. Now, seeing as it is the Y value that you want to move, we'll need to set this angle to 90. So now if I move this, now you see it moves like so. So I'm thinking for it to completely go off the screen, I'm thinking I should just set it to 1.1 just to be on the safe side. So I'm going to modify this, the distance, with AnimCurves. Then the easing, at the beginning, I wanted to do a little bit of bounce before it goes off the screen. So I'm just going to click on here and then click on back. Then the end, I'm just going to click on Expo. You can use Circ too, but let's just leave it at Expo. Then the scale, I want it to be 1.1, recall. Then I don't want this time offset is when the animation starts. I want the time scale to be, because if I put it at 1, it means for the whole duration of the animation is going to run. But we already have an animation running for a quarter of the animation. So I'm just going to add that quarter to this duration here. So it runs faster by just a bit of a quarter. Then I'm going to, the time offset, I'm going to set it to start at a quarter too. That's 1 divided by 4 is 0.25. So now if I go here and I play this back now, you'll see what we've done. Just like that, it goes like so. And then we have the essence of the animation. Now comes the part where we're going to package it into a macro that we can use. So now, just to make everything come together, I'm going to go, notice something here. Media 2 is what we connected here. Media 2 shouldn't be what we connect there. What should be connected there is media 1, because you move from media 1 to media 2. So what we will do is I'm just going to connect this here and connect this here. I can move them manually and all like so. And then one thing that I now want to do is I want to package it into a macro. First, let's package everything together. So I bring in another merge node, connect this to this merge node, and also connect this to this merge node. Let's drag that down here, and then this media out will now connect here. Let me close this inspector so we have some space. And then we have this is the whole transition. This is the whole thing. Now I want to now rename this merge because I want to create some controls inside this merge. So I'm just going to rename this to control. I right click on it and click on rename and type control. I want to create a control for, let's go to the middle. So this here, this should be the foreground, this should be the background. So that's why when I click on this, we can't see anything because this one is on top. Sorry about that. So I'm just going to right click on this and click on swap inputs. So that way this is the green one is on top. So we see this, we see the scat splitting, then going off like so. Now what we need to do now is I want a situation where I can control how wide this gap is. So I'm going to go to this control, right click on it, click on edit controls. I can say gap. Then I can uncheck animate. I want the default value to be maybe 0.02. Then I want the range to be from 0 to 10. I don't want it to be an integer, so I'll leave that one unchecked. I want it to be a slider control. Then I want the steps to be 0.1. No, the steps to be 0.1. And that's that. I click OK. So if I go to this control and I open the inspector, you'll see I have another tab here called user, and then by default it's 0.01. So the next thing we set for this control, right click on it and click on add controls, edit controls. Then I want to be able to set where this split happens, either towards this side or this side. So I'm just going to go to here and say split location and check animate. I want it to happen, I want it to have like the default value should be 0 and the range should be minus 0.5 up to 0.5. And I'm just going to set this to minus 0.5 and 0.5. And then I'm going to do slider control, steps, this is maybe 0.1. And then we say the center is 0. Click OK. So we have this going here. Then I also want a situation where I can say whether it's an exit animation or an entry animation. So I'm going to right click on this, edit controls. I'm gonna just call it flow. Uncheck animate. Default should be 0, should be an integer, should be 0 to 1. And I'm going to scroll down here until I get to multi-button control. Click on that, and here I'm going to type, let's type exit first, then add, then entry, add. Then I'm going to tick button and click OK. So we have that. Then comes the angle of this whole thing. You know, here we can specify the angle from here, set it to whatever angle we wish. So I'm just going to go to this control, right click on it again and click on edit controls. Then because I don't want it to conflict with the name angle that most of these controls have, I'm just going to call it for now, let me just call it wangle. Then uncheck animate. Then I want it to hover, I want it to not be an integer, I want it to, the value, initial value to be 0. Then the range should be from -90 degrees to +90 degrees. And let's use the slider control. The steps should be 1, the center should be 0, and we click OK. So we have all the controls we need for this animation. Now to connect all these controls to all of this, let's start with the angle. So I go to this transform 1. Notice the name we gave it on control is wangle. I just go to transform 1, go to this angle here, right click on it, click on expression, then type the name of this thing here, which is control, and dot wangle. Then it automatically picks the value of this angle here. So if I go here and I control this, it's controlling that angle. We'll leave flow for now, so that will be the last we set. Then we go to split location. For split location, I'll still go to transform 1, because for transform 1, I can set the split location by just moving this around like so. So let me double click on this, which will be at the center. And then for the split location, I think I set it to 0.5, okay, minus 0.5 and all that. So I'm just going to go to this control, go to transform 1, right click on center, expression. Then I'll go to here, I'll set this value to 0.5 plus center dot split. Remember the thing has it's case sensitive, so capital S, capital L. So you recall that that one just increases by minus, and also I press enter. So I think I got it wrong. Split was what I wrote here. I need to go here, go back there, and split location. I wrote center. My bad. It should be control. I wonder why I wrote center. Split location, and then everything is fine. All is well with the world all of a sudden. So now I can move this location. Now the gap. Now that gap is informed by this movement for this transform here. So I go to the transform, I go to modifiers. Under modifiers, you see this value here is what sets the split gap. So I'm just going to right click on this expression, and it will now be, the value will be, let me go back to this control. I want to see how it is denominated. The gap is 0.01, so it's the actual value that we use, like so, up until 10. So let's say I set this to 1 though. Let me see what happens. So once I set this to 1, let's go back to this transform, go to modifiers, then I set this to control.Gap. Now the challenge with that is the gap is too wide, so I'm just going to divide it by 10 so it looks a bit better. So I think I don't want to do it by 20, so that's better. So that will be the control. So as soon as I go to this control, I can increase the gap like so, like so. That's better. That's what you now use. Now we come to the final one, which is the flow. Now the flow is such that, you know, if I say it should exit, now it exits. You just come in here at the beginning. That's the default thing, and it flows, then it comes out, which is cool. But if I say entry, it means that this image will be what will show. This image will be what will show first. This will show, but it won't split. The other image will now come up on top of it. So to get that to happen, I'm going to bring in, let's move these back a little bit. I'm going to click on this merge, shift space bar. I'm going to bring in a dissolve node and click on this too. I'm going to bring in a dissolve node. Then I want this to be connected to the foreground here, and I want this to be connected to the foreground here. Now for this dissolve, I'm just going to go to here, right click on the background foreground, click on expression, and here I'm just going to type control.Flow. Recall that flow, the 0 is the exit. So and if the 0 is exit and this is 0, it means it picks this background. So it picks the existing way it is. But if the flow changes to 1, then it picks this other one. All right. So then we do the same thing for this. And we go here, right click on this, expression, control.Flow. I hope you're getting the drift of what I'm doing. And there we go. So now I will go to control.Flow. So if I play this back now, see it's a normal flow. Cool. But if I now go to this control, I click on entry. There are a few more things you need to do. I just want to show you something. So if you go here, you see this. So you see this one is already showing. It's not supposed to show up because I need to change the way the animation flows, which is where I see we need to do more, because right now the animation should now flow in reverse. So to get the animation to flow in reverse, let's first go to the split. Now for the split, we go to the modifiers. Note that this happened initially at the very beginning and happened 4 times as fast. So, but now we want it to happen in reverse. It means it should be the last animation that will happen, because that's when it will close the animation. So it means this value here will be minus. So first thing we do, we go here, we say if control.Flow equals 0, you should use the existing value. But if it is not 0, then it should change this value, copy, type minus to negative. So it goes in the opposite direction. Let me just put a bit of space. We got to see what we're working with. Then we now close this. Now, also, we click on this and click on expression. Go here and say RF if control.Flow equals 0, then this 0 should exist, else it should be the value of that control gap. So I'm just going to paste it in here again and press and close the bracket, and we're good to go. Okay. Then I also want to make sure that this doesn't happen at the beginning. It should happen, time offset is when the animation happens. So this should happen at the last quarter of the animation. That's 0.75. Now I need to address this same thing. Now before I move on from here, now I want these ones will now swap. Back will now be here, sign will be here. Yeah, you get what I'm saying? So I'm going to right click on this expression. Yes, it's getting a bit complex, but yeah, it's once you get the hang of it, it's equals to 0. That means in the initial flow, it should maintain the sign. But if it's going in reverse, that means the easing should also go in reverse. So I'm just going to go space, colon, back, apostrophe, close. Then I'm going to do the same thing for this. Control.Flow equals 0, then it should be back, else it should be sign. So it looks like a bit of mistake here. Control should be capital. Okay, so we are done with this animation. So we go to this next animation and do the same thing here too. Right click on this, go to expression, if control.Flow equals 0, then this will be back, else it's equal to be expo apostrophe close bracket. Right click on this expression. So we just keep repeating the same expression, if control.Flow. I'm going to put all these expressions in the description and also on screen for you to see. Then equals this, else is equal to back, and then we close, and that's it. Then we move on to scale. Now for this scale now, it means for the offset, we're going to go to expression, if control.Flow equals 0, we maintain 0, else it's going to be 1.1. So this is dot. Then I go to scale. It's going to be negative if it's on the entry. So I'm just going to go here, if control.Flow equals 0, maintain 1.1, else it's going to minus 1.1, close. Now comes this other part. This scale will remain the same. I'm just going to go here, right click on it, expression, if control.Flow is equal to 0, it maintains that, else it will start at the beginning, which is 0. So now if I go and play the animation, you'll see that it comes like so, it enters in, then it connects together, and now we are ready to package these transition. Let's just close inspector now so we see the whole thing. So now to package this, we make sure we select it from media 1 to media 2. So I'm just going to go like this. Make sure you don't select media 1 and 2, but make sure the way you select it from media 1 level to this level. Select everything like so. I click on any of the nodes, click on macro, create macro. Then let's just close this, find control, expand control. Let's collapse this. We go to under user, we just pick gap, split location, flow, then one goal. Now for the angle, we can now change this to angle and go to file, save as group. Then you can save it, fusion, templates, edit, transitions. I have a bunch of transitions here. Then I just put mine on the mad resolve, split and fly. I already created it before, so I'm just going to put this and put version 2 and say save and click close. We go back to the edit page. I select both clips. I hold down Alt. Then I create a duplicate. Let's say I delete this transition. Let's zoom in a bit. Let's go to Mad Resolve. We'll see it here. Split and fly version 2. Drag it in between there. And then if we play it, see we have it play and come in. So if I click on this now, you see all the controls. We can increase the gap, we can do the split location, and that's it. Thanks for watching, and see you on the next one. Cheers.